Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. College football week 8 is officially upon us. The season is absolutely cruising along. In this week's video, we are covering what I believe is the best slate of the year so far. We've got 5 ranked on ranked matchups, a ton of rivalry games, a lot of fun matchups in week 8. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week of college football comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. Like I said, guys, every week I keep telling myself I'm going to go ahead and put fewer picks in the slates, fewer picks. We have 22 picks this week. 22 picks. Why, you may ask? There's just so many good games this week. Like I mentioned, this is the best slate we've had all year long. Every time I'm like, all right, that's enough. I scroll down a little bit. Wait, that game's on? All right, well, I got to go ahead and take a pick on that one. Wait, that game's on? Well, I can't not talk about that game. So I just kept throwing more picks on the slate. 22 picks in this week's video. Now, because there's so many picks, guys, I can't really go deep into each and every game. So it's going to be quick breakdowns followed by the pick, and we're going to keep the train moving along here. So this video isn't like an hour and a half long. Very quickly, before we dive into this week's picks, a quick little recap of how we did last week. And last week was kind of our first bad week we've had in probably a month's time. We went 8-11 last week. A little bit of a rough spot. We had a good start. You know, it looked good out the jump. And then as the day went along, a lot more losses. We misread the Oregon game. We completely misread the Oklahoma game. A lot of bad reads on my part, so I do apologize for that. However, don't be too concerned. We're still 61-48 on the year, and we're still positive money, so we're still having a good year. One bad week doesn't negate all the good we've done. And like I said, 22 picks, plenty of opportunities this week to go ahead and make our money back from last week and improve on our overall season record. One last thing before we dive into the picks, guys, I do want to go ahead and note, I didn't know this when I woke up this morning, but as I'm starting to talk, I feel like I'm starting to get a little sick. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you got a little bit of a hoarse voice. It is what it is. You kind of wake up. I've been up for a couple hours now, and I'm still I can't get rid of that like sore throat feeling. Nose is still, not feeling the best. So bear with me here. My voice might crack a little bit. I might struggle at times to speak. But do bear with me here as I'm battling what I believe is my first cold of what usually is like 7 colds in the winter season. For those who have been watching me here on the channel for a few years now, you know what that means. I do typically get sick a lot, which I don't really know why, but it is what it is. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our Week 8 college football picks, starting off with some Friday night football action. Our first pick in today's video comes from the Louisville-Miami game, 7 p.m. kickoff tonight. And it might surprise some people. I was definitely leaning on taking the Miami spread, but I think this pick is a little better. I'm going with the under in this game, 51.5, which I'm grabbing for -121 over on Novik. By the way, guys, do not worry if you miss any picks or if you want to go ahead and skip around. I will have the timestamps in the description as well as all the final plays in the pinned comment, trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys to go ahead and follow along with the video. Under 51.5 is not the most conventional pick that I think people would think of when thinking of Louisville versus Miami here, but these are two very strong defenses going head-to-head. According to PFF, these are the 2 of the top 10 best defenses in college football. Miami right now graded the 3rd best defense by PFF. Louisville graded the 6th best defense according to PFF. Both really good defenses, both these teams off of bye weeks. And ultimately, I do think Miami's still going to score some points here because their offense obviously has been very, very good. Despite the obviously Louisville's defense being solid, I still think Miami could score a little bit, but I don't think Miami's going to score a ton. And actually, the under has cashed, this under specifically of 51.5 points, has cashed in 80% of Miami's games this year. The only game this line went over for Miami was against USF, and that's because Miami scored 49 points in that game. I don't think Miami is scoring anywhere near that in this matchup because, again, that Louisville defense is legitimate and should be able to slow down Miami. Look at where Miami's strengths are, right? Miami top 40 passing offense, Louisville top 10 pass defense in terms of yards per game. Miami 60th in rushing yards per game, Louisville 31st in rushing yards allowed per game. So pretty good matchup there. And then on the flip side here, Miami, one of the best defenses in college football. You do see a slight maybe advantage for Louisville there, 22nd passing offense against Miami's 35th passing defense. But it's ever so slight because, again, Miami still has a very strong pass defense. Again, Two top 10 defenses going toe-to-toe here. 51.5 is a pretty high line. This could be a bit of a sweat, but honestly, I do think the numbers do support this. Now, when these two teams played last year, it was a shootout, 52-45 in the favor of Miami, but both these teams are drastically different this year. Miami has a legit defense this year. They don't have how can I say this? The offense isn't as explosive as it was, but it's more efficient, and defensively, they're way better. Louisville also much better defensively than they were a year ago. So despite Louisville having a lot of overs this year, I do like the under a lot in this spot. Two big defenses going head-to-head. I don't think you're going to see a lot of points here. All right, guys, our second pick in today's video, sticking with the Friday night games, we have number 25 ranked Nebraska at Minnesota, 8 p.m. kickoff tonight. And I am going with Nebraska here on the spread, -6.5. Now, I do want to mention off the bat here, Minnesota has a healthy amount of sharp action in terms of the public betting numbers. You do see a large amount of money on Minnesota despite more tickets being on Nebraska. To be a little bit more accurate, 57% of all public tickets are on Minnesota. So the public does seem to be backing Minnesota a little bit more than Nebraska. But despite having 57% of the tickets, they have 99% of the money on them, meaning that even though Nebraska still has a healthy amount of bets at 43%, the money, the sharp bettors, the big bettors, they seem to be backing Minnesota in this spot that is based off of Action Network, and they do take a lot of their bets. So that's off of a 17,000 bet sample size. So it's a lot to go off of there. You see a lot of people seem to be backing Minnesota. To be fair, though, that's because Minnesota, the actual spread for this game is 7.5, 8.5, depending where you're getting it. I'm buying a point or two down to 6.5. I think the key reason why people are backing Minnesota is because of that 7.5 or 8.5 point line, which I do understand. If we're looking at 7.5 or 8.5, I would lean Minnesota a little bit more. But I do think Nebraska is the better team here, and I do think they have a clear advantage in terms of their passing offense against Minnesota's passing defense. This is a top 10 passing team in the country. Nebraska is according to passing yards per game versus Minnesota, who is just inside the top 50 for passing yards allowed. This is an okay defense, not great for Minnesota. On the flip side here, there's not much about Minnesota's offense I love here. 77th in scoring. You know, their strength is their passing offense, which, I mean, if you want to call that a strength, they're just barely in the top 70 in the nation in passing yards per game. But Nebraska has the best pass defense in college football in terms of passing yards allowed per game. Their weakness has been their run defense, but guess what? Minnesota, not a very good running team. So a lot of areas where I'm concerned there. I just don't think Minnesota's offense has the ability to keep this game too close. And Nebraska, again, they have that clear advantage of their passing offense against Minnesota's passing defense. I get the 8.5 line because, again, you do see that Minnesota's defense is good enough to at least slow down Nebraska's offense. But as long as Dylan Raiola can get something going in the passing game, they should be able to win this game by 7 points. I do think I think it's going to be a decent contest. Like, I don't think Nebraska is going to blow Minnesota out of the water, but I do think Nebraska to win by 7 is very realistic, considering the fact, and one more time, Minnesota not all that impressive offensively from a number standpoint at least, and Nebraska has a clear advantage offensively. So I do like Nebraska in the spot, -6.5, which I am grabbing for -130 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. Also, one last little nugget. Minnesota has been a cover disaster. Nebraska also honestly hasn't been great. 20% against the spread in general, but Minnesota, they have not covered the spread yet this season. Although I know this number here, they probably covered the spread in this game here. So, you know, but look at these games. I mean, they didn't cover versus Purdue, didn't cover versus Ohio State, didn't cover versus Rutgers, Cal, Buffalo. Like, not a lot of good cover numbers there for Minnesota here. And again, Nebraska not much better, but, you know, at least they have something. Minnesota just have not been a cover team this year. All right, guys, our third pick in today's video is our final Friday night play. I had to throw this on the card because it's just too easy. North Carolina at Cal, 10:30 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with Cal here, -7.5, which I'm grabbing for -116 over on Novig. Best odds available to me. I don't spend much time on this one, guys. North Carolina, obviously, everybody knows, is a national story, is an absolute dumpster fire this season. They are coming off a bye week, but this bye week was a very tumultuous bye week. There was a lot of, obviously, stuff going on. There was rumors about Belichick looking to buy out. Then they had to come out and make a statement. Imagine, I did not see this coming, I'll be honest, in the preseason. If you told me that by early October, people would be calling for Bill Belichick's resignation, that Belichick would have to come out and make a statement saying he's committed to North Carolina football and isn't leaving. It's not looking good. A lot of bad stuff. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Something's going on behind closed doors. Maybe he's not getting a buyout now, but things are not looking good. Everybody in North Carolina, I feel like, regrets this decision to bring Bill Belichick on. it's just not going well. And now you have to go off the bye week, travel cross country to California for a late night game, which, by the way, on the East Coast compared to West Coast, this is a late game for North Carolina. 10:30 p.m. kickoff in California, which means it's going to mess up from the time change perspective. A really rough road spot here for North Carolina. And look, Cal's not a great team by any means, but they're definitely good enough to beat North Carolina. North Carolina offensively tied 121st in the nation. They're outside the top 120 in passing yards or rushing yards per game. And then you go ahead and flip this over. The defense is a little bit better. They actually have a decent run defense, but their passing defense, 109th in the nation. Cal, top 50 passing offense in college football. So, yeah, not really looking good for North Carolina. There's no spot where they have a clear advantage in this one. Cal should roll this team over. All right, guys, we're now officially moving on to the Saturday slate. We have Georgia Tech at Duke, 12 p.m. kickoff, little ACC showdown. I actually have 2 picks coming from this Georgia Tech-Duke game. The first of 2 picks from this game, I have Georgia Tech on the spread, plus 1.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 101 odds over on Novig here. First and foremost, again, a sharp action spot. Georgia Tech currently has 46% of all the tickets on their spread of plus 1.5, yet they have 96% of the money. So yes, Duke is getting more bets on their spread of minus 1.5, but yet loads of money coming in on Georgia Tech here. Plus 1.5 for almost even odds too if you're getting on Novig. Pretty good value, and this is ultimately a coin flip game. Both these teams have weaknesses and strengths that kind of go against each other. For example, Duke's pass defense is atrocious, 117th in college football, giving up over 250 passing yards per game on average. Georgia Tech's passing offense isn't great, but 63rd in passing yards per game. They do have a clear advantage there against Duke. And Georgia Tech, top 15 rushing offense. Duke's rushing defense is definitely better than their pass defense, but it's still not great, so you do have some advantages there. Georgia Tech tied for 8th in yards per play. Duke tied for 79th in yards per play allowed. Duke not efficient in the red zone. Georgia Tech very efficient in the red zone. You see what I'm getting at here. Georgia Tech offensively has some key advantages against Duke here defensively. When you flip it, though, Duke has advantage as well. 11th best passing offense in college football in terms of yards per game. Georgia Tech, pretty decent pass defense, but you can see Duke does have a slight advantage there. Also, Georgia Tech, their run defense has been terrible. Now, Duke isn't necessarily a run-heavy team, but they do have a massive advantage in that spot if they can go ahead and establish the run. Ultimately, I do trust Georgia Tech's offense against Duke's defense more than the opposite, more than Duke's offense versus Georgia Tech's defense. I think the Yellow Jackets ultimately offensively can take advantage of a Duke team that we have seen in big spots this year kind of come up short. Now, they've been playing much better of late. They had obviously that 2-week stretch where they lost to Illinois, got killed by Illinois, and then lost to Tulane. Since then, they have beaten NC State, they crushed Syracuse, they crushed Cal. They've been playing very well over the last 3 to 4 weeks coming in this game. They're also coming off a bye week, and they're at home in this spot, so those are a couple advantages on Duke's side. But I do like the direction of Georgia Tech in this game. And again, I don't think they've lost a game this year. They haven't lost a game this year, but they also haven't, obviously they cover the spread of plus 1.5 in every single game this year. Versus Duke, minus 1.5, minus the, obviously, Tulane and Illinois game. Besides that, they covered this spread of minus 1.5 in every other game. It'll be a tight one, but you're getting better value with Georgia Tech here. So Georgia Tech plus 1.5. You could go Georgia Tech money line as well. Don't hate that also. But even odds, you're giving me the 1.5. God forbid this game ends up being a 1-point game. You get a little insurance there. So I think Georgia Tech plus 1.5 with the sharp action on our side is a good play. And then for my second pick, just kind of piggybacking off of what I just said, I'm going the over 59.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 117 over on Novig. It's a very big number. I understand that. But like I just mentioned, there are two offenses that have advantages against the opposing defense. I think Georgia Tech will carry the scoring in this matchup, but I do expect that Duke, with that passing offense, and if they can get the run game going a little bit here, there's going to be a healthy amount of points scored in this spot. So far this year, Georgia Tech has not been a big over team. However, in 3 consecutive games, the general over has cashed for Georgia Tech. In terms of the line of 59.5, not so much, but again, that's a very high line due to the matchup at hand. Duke, on the other hand, a very high cover team, and they've actually cashed this over at 59.5 in every game this year except for the Syracuse game. They score a lot of points. They give up a lot of points. It's very simple. It's pretty good value, too, for minus 117. Love the over. Despite it being a little bit of a higher line, I do like the over a lot in this spot. All right, guys, next up, continuing on with the 12 p.m. window on Saturday, we have a Big 12 battle, Baylor at TCU. I'm going with the Baylor Bears here, plus 3.5 on the spread, grabbing that for minus 123. Best odds available to me over on Novig. Like I always like to say, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. What's best for me may not be what's best for you. Again, this is a coin flip game, guys, but you give me 3.5 points for Baylor. I'm going to go and take the 3.5 points here. I know TCU has home field advantage, but this has Baylor written all over in terms of their passing offense against TCU's passing defense. Baylor, the number one passing offense so far this year in college football in terms of passing yards per game. They played some good games too. Baylor so far this year, they played Arizona State, they played Auburn, SMU, even I know Kansas State isn't a great team, but Kansas State. So they played a tough schedule. TCU also has a couple good games under their belt as well. Baylor is coming off a bye week though, so they do have an extra week of rest coming into this matchup with TCU. TCU's pass defense 100th right now, giving up 240 passing yards per game. Baylor's offense should be able to get enough done in the air to make plays to score. Now the problem is the flip side. TCU, the 5th best passing offense. Baylor tied for 76th passing defense. Not as bad necessarily as 1 versus 100, but 5 versus 76, still a pretty good matchup. The over honestly isn't a bad bet in this game as well, although I didn't take it. I do think Baylor's going to keep this game close. These are two really good passing offenses, both really bad passing defenses. You're going to see a lot of points scored, fast-paced game. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down to a field goal, and again, plus 3.5 being the key number there. I like it a lot. I think the actual spread itself might be 2.5. Yeah, it just dropped today to 2.5 points. Get it at 3.5. 2.5, I wouldn't touch it. I'd either take TCU or fade the game in general, just stay away from it. But Baylor plus 3.5, really good value there. These two teams met in November of last year, and Baylor did win that game at home 37-34. So you see some closer games here. Baylor also 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games on the road. Baylor, in general this year, a really good cover team. From this numbers perspective, overall just 20%, not very good. But plus 3.5, they've covered in every game this year except for week 1 against Auburn. TCU minus 3.5. Didn't do it versus Arizona State and didn't do it versus Kansas State last time out. And that's the thing. TCU had to play Kansas State last week. They lost to Kansas State. Now have to come home and host this Baylor team that's fresh off a bye week. And oh, by the way, they beat Kansas State. So that's one area where I would be a little concerned here. TCU, tough loss last week. Now have to come home and host a Baylor team that beat the team that they couldn't beat last week. I adjust Baylor and their passing offense a little bit more than I do TCU here. So Baylor plus 3.5 for minus 123. To me, you really can't beat that value here. It's a coin flip game, and ultimately I like Baylor a little bit more. Baylor money line could be a little sprinkle play there, but plus 3.5 is a lock. All right, guys, next up we have LSU at Vanderbilt, the first of 5 ranked-on-ranked matchups in this week's slate. I'm not going to break this pick down because I have a separate video already breaking down this LSU Vanderbilt game, our video series Clash of the Titans here at Guy Boston Sports. Make sure to go ahead and check that out. We're going to have videos for all 5 ranked matchups this week. This video, the LSU Vanderbilt video, is already out. The other 4 are yet to come, but they will be releasing over the next 24 hours. And because we have so many picks in this video, and I took the time to go ahead and make that video, we're not going to break it down. I will give you the pick, though. LSU plus 3.5, which I'm grabbing from minus 132 over on FanDuel. We'll kind of double dip here and give the pick in this video as well as in the Clash of the Titans video. But yeah, if you want a further explanation as well as more picks in this LSU Vanderbilt game, go ahead and check out that video, now available over at GuyBostonSports.com and here at Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel. I'm taking the time to go ahead and explain this now because obviously there's 4 other games where I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to tell you guys, here's the pick. You want the explanation? Go watch the video because, again, we have 5 of these things coming out this week. Make sure to go ahead and check those out. It saves us some time here on this video as well. All right, guys, moving right along here, continuing on with a 12 p.m. window on Saturday. We have another big-time matchup, which is surprising. This one isn't a Clash of the Titans video considering the size and nature of the teams playing. We have Washington at Michigan. I'm going with the over here, 49.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 122 over on FanDuel. Picking a side in this game is a little bit tough for me. I feel like the over is a little bit of a better bet, although I do lean Washington in terms of a spread pick. Obviously, Michigan, they just lost to USC. Running back Justice Haynes may not play. Let's actually go ahead and look at the injury report right now and take a look and see what that looks like here for Justice Haynes. He's listed as questionable right now. Yeah, not a lot to go off of there. There's a chance he could play, though. Sharon Moore did say there's a chance he could play, so we'll see. But obviously, he's not 100% coming into this one. So, despite that, though, I still like the over. I think both offenses have an ability to go ahead and attack a weakness in the opposing defense. For example, Washington, 25th in the nation in passing yards per game. Michigan, 61st in passing yards allowed. They don't really have a great pass defense. Not a terrible one, but not a great one. A clear advantage for Washington's offense. They should be able, with their dynamic offense, go ahead and score some points against Michigan. Defense that's good, but not great. On the flip side, same thing. Washington's defense, not great, not terrible, but definitely not great. Really good run defense, which is a bit of a problem because obviously Michigan leans into their running game. But Washington specifically weak against the pass. This could be a game where Michigan, especially with the Justice Haynes injury, rely on freshman Bryce Underwood to throw the football, which I do think he'll find some success here. Look, I get it. It's a bit sweaty, but there are numbers to go ahead and back this up. We have this nice insight provided by Outlier. The over has hit in 7 of Michigan's last 8 games at home. That's an 88% hit rate over the last 8 games. If we look at just the line of 50.5, or 49.5, I should say, actually, because again, we're not taking it at 50.5, taking it at 49.5. They've cashed in 75% of their last 8 home games. So obviously a very big over team at home of late, dating back to last season. So I like the over here. Again, it's going to be a bit of a sweat because they're not bad defense necessarily. They're just not great ones. What I'm hoping is that 2 offenses that have a lot of talent on each offense for Washington and for Michigan, we're going to see them score some points in this one and take advantage of a couple of the weak spots in each other's defenses. So it'll be a tight one, a bit of a sweat one here, but I do like the over 49.5 in this game. All right, guys, next up, we got a little SEC showdown here. We have Oklahoma at South Carolina, 12:45 p.m. kickoff. I'm expecting a big bounce back here for Oklahoma. Grab it a -5.5 or -104 over on Novick. Look, that Oklahoma loss last week absolutely took me by surprise. I did not see that coming. Even if they lost the game, to lose in the fashion they did, only scoring 6 points and losing by double digits, I did not see that coming. Texas, obviously, after the Florida loss, looked dead on arrival. And then they crushed Oklahoma. So really big win for Texas, obviously. Shout out to them. Oklahoma, big bounce back spot here, though. Just because they lost Texas does not mean their season over. They still have major aspirations for the college football playoff, and they can still get them, but they have to keep winning. They can't let that Texas loss sputter them out of control here. And a good bounce back spot. Beat South Carolina on the road, get back on track here. South Carolina have had a very weird season, to say the least. This is a team with Lenore Sellers that finished the year off very strong last year and had a lot of positive momentum coming into this season. But this year, it just has not gone their way. Every time they've had a big test, they failed it. Vanderbilt, crushed. Missouri, they gave them a nice battle, but they lost. Then they beat Kentucky, and you're like, hey, maybe they're trending in the right direction. They duped me. LSU took care of business at home over them. So the 3 times they played ranked SEC schools, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and LSU, they've lost by at least 9 points in all 3 games. Now you come home, traveling back from LSU, not a huge travel, obviously. Traveling back home, hosting Oklahoma, a team that's pissed off, embarrassed, kind of need this win now to kind of save their season. I don't see why they don't win this game and honestly beat South Carolina handedly. Oklahoma, one of the best defenses in college football. I don't see South Carolina offensively doing a whole lot, even with the quarterback as great as Lenore Sellers is. And on the flip side, I think Oklahoma with John Mateer obviously had a really bad game last week. I think they'll go ahead and bounce back. And the South Carolina defense is pretty good, but is it good enough to slow down Oklahoma? That remains to be seen. But I do think Oklahoma will have a much better game in this one. Defensively alone, they're going to be. I don't see South Carolina scoring many points. They only scored 10 versus LSU. They're going to really struggle to score here against Oklahoma. And I think John Mateer, again, going to have a little bit of a bounce back spot here. So Oklahoma -5.5 or -104.2. Really great value. All right, guys, we are about to the 24-minute mark in today's video. So if you are still watching at this point, please go ahead and comment 24 down below. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. We put a lot of hard work into all these videos. So when you do actually stick around and watch through, it really does mean a lot to us. So thank you for watching. Comment 24 down below if you're still watching. And real quick, before we dive into the rest of the picks for week 8, I do have a quick little ad read to do. Guys, I want to take a second and talk to you about Chalkboard, the sponsor of today's video. If you like player props and haven't given Chalkboard a go yet, you are absolutely missing out. Right now, they have an incredible sign-up offer for new users. If you sign up today, they'll give you a free $20, no deposit necessary. That, my friends, is what I call a deal. You need to make sure to go ahead and use code GUYBOSTON to trigger that bonus, though. So make sure to go ahead and do that. Head over to the link down below in the description and or the pinned comment. Download Chalkboard and sign up with code GUYBOSTON to claim your free $20 today. Again, link down below either in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you to Chalkboard for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to the show. All right, guys, next up we have Arizona at Houston, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. And I'm going Arizona here on the money line again. Another one of these spots where, to me, it's a bit of a coin flip here, but ultimately, I like Arizona in this spot for a value standpoint. -107 over on Novig. They're, for the most part, evenly matched, and it is on the road, so I know a lot of people probably would go, well, why not go Houston here? I just don't think Houston offensively can do much against this Arizona team, honestly. Look at Arizona's defense right now. Top 30 defense in the nation in terms of points per game. Top 10 against the pass. 43 against the run. Not as good, but still solid. Top 50. Top 10 in yards per play. Top 5. Tie for 5th, actually. Top 5 for turnovers forced. A lot of good numbers defensively. Houston offensively, there's not a lot to love. There's 77th in passing yards per game. 67th in rushing yards. Not a lot of great metrics. Their offensive line isn't that great. On the flip side, if we look at Arizona's offense, now Houston defensively is very strong, but at least Arizona, they have that top 30 passing attack in the nation. And ultimately, if one offense is going to break through, I think it's going to be Arizona's. Again, Houston offensively, outside top 50 and passing and rushing yards per game. Not a great running team, Arizona, but they have a really good passing offense. I get it. Houston's passing defense is pretty good, but I think Arizona has the potential to overcome Houston's pass defense, which again is very solid, but so isn't Houston's passing offense. And also from a schedule standpoint, Houston really just hasn't impressed me in their schedule. They've had one real game, which was versus Texas Tech, and they got blown out in that game 35-11. So that's their only true test. Wins over Oklahoma State and Oregon State and Colorado and Rice and SF Austin, those don't impress me. Now Houston, they've also beaten Oklahoma State. They've also beaten Hawaii and Weber State. Like, they haven't beaten a lot of great teams either, but they beat Kansas State, which I would say is better, at least equal to the Colorado win, right? But at least Arizona played BYU, which, by the way, right now is a top 15 team in the country, lost by 6 points in a tight battle with BYU. And they also played Iowa State. They got beat by Iowa State, but they played some tougher games. Have they won some better games? No, they don't have a ton of wins. They're 4-2, but they've at least played the tougher competition and gave a decent fight, especially in the BYU game. Put up a pretty good fight against BYU. Houston's beat a bunch of cupcakes, and the one time they got tested, they lost by 24 points to Texas Tech. To be fair, Arizona probably would lose the same way, but I do think Arizona a little bit more battle-tested, a little bit more trustworthy offensively, so I'm taking Arizona here on the money line in this spot. These two teams did play last year in Arizona. Arizona also won that game 27-3 against Houston. So I know it's a year ago, different team, different circumstance, but I do like Arizona in this spot a lot. All right, guys, next up, we're now moving into the later afternoon slate on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. kickoff. This is the second of 5 Clash of the Titans games here. We have Ole Miss at Georgia. Really good game. Might even be the game of the week here. And again, I'm not going to dive into this one because we have our video coming out later on covering this game, but I am going Ole Miss here plus 7.5 on the spread, which I'm grabbing for a minus 112 over on FanDuel. Just too many points. Although Georgia is at home, they do look pretty good. Ole Miss is the 5th ranked team in the country for a reason. You're giving them 7.5 points on the road. I think Ole Miss offense can do enough to keep this game tight. So I like Ole Miss here plus 7.5. All right, guys, next up again in that 3:30 p.m. window on Saturday, we have UNLV at Boise State here. And I'm going with the over 61.5, which actually is a plus money play, plus 100 over on ESPN Bet. So good value on the play as well. Two bad defenses that have offense that can move the ball and score. I think you're going to see a ton of points scored in this game. Looking down below here defensively, Boise State's a little bit better defensively than UNLV is, but the key number here, UNLV really struggles against the run. Boise State, really struggles against the run. UNLV, 30th in rushing yards per game. Really strong rushing offense for UNLV. They can score points, top 20 in the nation in points per game, top 20 yards per play. They don't turn the ball over too much. Passing offense leaves a little bit to be desired. In Boise State, their passing defense actually isn't terrible. But you're going to see some points scored there. And then on the flip side, though, UNLV's defense is horrific. 119th in passing yards allowed per game, 123rd. I'll keep going through the list, but horrible. No pass rush. They don't stop the run. Tied for 125th in yards per play allowed. Boise State should score a ton of points here in this spot. But also on the flip side, UNLV will be able to score enough to contribute to this total. Both these teams is 50-50 on the year in terms of this line of 61.5. This is a very high line for a total. The fact that it's 50-50 tells you all you really need to know here. Both teams capable of scoring, both teams capable of giving up a lot of points here. From a head-to-head perspective, they played twice last year, and honestly, the under hit both times. But these are two different teams now, a year removed. I think that this is going to be a really high-scoring game. For plus 100, it's definitely worth taking a shot on. Maybe not a full unit play, but definitely worth putting something on. All right, guys, next up, another 3:30 p.m. game. We have another SEC game here. We have Texas A&M, number 4 ranked Texas A&M at Arkansas here. And I'm going with the over in this game as well, 58.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 111 over on Novig here. Let's start with Arkansas first, okay? This line of 58.5 has cashed in literally every single game of the year for Arkansas. Why, you may ask? Kind of similar to what we just talked about with the last pick, but to a worse degree. Arkansas's defense is abysmal. They give up a ton of points, but they also score a healthy amount of points. Let's look down below here. All right, starting with the defense. Arkansas, 118th in points allowed per game, 116th in passing yards, 116th in rushing yards, tied for 119th in yards per play allowed. You just keep going down that list. Their best metric on this sheet, they're tied for 82nd in the nation for tackles for loss. And that's it. Everything else is abysmal, tied for 83rd in sacks. Again, not a good defense by the slightest. And Texas A&M, pretty solid offense here. So A&M should score a healthy amount of points in this spot. That's what most teams do. Look at Tennessee, okay? Tennessee had 34 points. Notre Dame, 56. Memphis, 32. Ole Miss, 41. Arkansas State and AAMU early in the year, not as much, but those are the weak teams they play. Teams score a lot of points. They're giving up over 30 points per game on average. On the flip side, though, A&M's defense is not great. Not bad, but not great. Tied for 42nd in scoring, and you've seen some teams score on A&M. This line of 58.5 has cashed in 50% of A&M's games this year. Early on, a lot of overs. It's quieted down a bit the last few weeks, but you have seen Notre Dame scored 40 on them. Utah State 22, UTSA 24. Teams can score on this A&M defense. And Arkansas offensively is very good. Top 20, they're tied for 27, so top 30 scoring offense in the nation. 19th in passing yards per game, 17th in rushing yards per game, tied for 6th in yards per play. They obviously fired Sam Pittman mid-year. It's been a bit of a rough year for Arkansas, but they have played tight in these big-time matches. They lost by 3 last week at Rocky Top against Tennessee. They gave Ole Miss a pretty good run for their money there in that game back on September 13th. So, yeah, their defense is terrible, but their offense is good enough to keep them in these games. I think the over is a really good play here. 58.5, really good line. Arkansas is going to give up somewhere between 35 and 40 points, but they can also score anywhere between 30 and 35 points. This game honestly could be something along the lines of like 41 to 30 A&M, and obviously that cruises past the over. Even if you don't think that A&M is going to score as many points, something along the lines of like 35 to 30, which again, very realistic, cashes the over. So I think it's just a really good bet. The line I think should be a little bit higher, honestly, for the over, but we're getting good value here at 58.5. Oh, and by the way, one last little tidbit here. The over has hit in 9 of the A&M Aggies' last 12 games as favorites. So just another metric there to go ahead and tell you the over is a good play here. All right, guys, next up, Big 12 battle here. Texas Tech at Arizona State, 4 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. And surprisingly here, I am going with the Sun Devils plus 8.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 122 over on Novig. Look, Arizona State was having a great year, and then Sam Leavitt got hurt last week, and that's why they kind of got blown out by Utah in that spot. Now, this week, if we go to the injury report here and scroll down a little bit for Arizona State, Sam Leavitt, whatever you want to, I'm not going to name pronunciation. Sam Leavitt, he is questionable still, but he's feeling good. He did practice a little bit, so he's day-to-day, but right now, from what I've been reading, he's probable. He should play in this game. That's huge because you saw last week Arizona State with a backup quarterback. Things did not go well at all, and they got killed by Utah. I think Texas Tech, obviously a very good team. They should go ahead and win this game, but 8.5 points is a lot of points. And I think Arizona State with Sam Leavitt back at quarterback should be able to go ahead and keep this game tight and at least keep it within this number. Looking at it from a matchup perspective, Texas Tech, their offense is crazy good. And you see a big advantage. Their passing offense against Arizona State's passing defense. That's a huge, huge advantage for Texas Tech there. So that obviously is going to be big. On the flip side, though, the passing offense has been great, but obviously with Sam Leavitt back, there is a little bit of a weak spot with Texas Tech there. Like I said, make no mistake, Texas Tech is going to win this game, but Arizona State at home, they're getting the starting quarterback back. We look at the head-to-head matchup from last year. Now, Texas Tech did win, but again, 30-22. The game was within the number. It was tight. It was close. Now, Texas Tech is better this year than they were last year. With the home field advantage here, with their quarterback back, I do think you're going to see Arizona State keep this game tight. Rivalry game, conference game. Again, make no mistake, Texas Tech is the better team and they will win the game, but 8.5 points is a lot for a rivalry game like this. I think Arizona State should go ahead and cover the number. Again, maybe not a full unit play because Texas Tech is really, really good, but definitely worth sprinkling something on. I did fail to mention a lot of sharp action on Arizona State in the game. They have 41% of the tickets, so Texas Tech has 59% of the public tickets, yet a lot of money on Arizona State right now. I think it's like a 45% differential. So in terms of the money, which is obviously a big shift. So Arizona State, a lot of people are backing them in this spot, and I completely understand it. Also, all the units, like I know I've been mentioning, like how I might not throw a full unit on this. All that information, the unit stuff, will be in that pinned comment down below with all the final plays. So don't worry, you'll see what I'm actually putting on each game from a unit perspective. Next up, guys, we have a little Big Ten showdown here. We have Oregon coming off a rough loss to Indiana last week on the road, taking on Rutgers. And it might surprise people, but I'm going Rutgers here plus 19.5. Now, the actual spread is 17.5. This line actually dipped as low as, it opened at 16.5. It dipped as low to 14.5, and now has come back up to 17.5 as people started to bet Oregon. I'm taking Rutgers plus 19.5. Again, you have some sharp action on Rutgers in this spot. Minus 133 over on Novig. And look, we can go through the numbers. Oregon, obviously, from a matchup perspective, has a lot of advantages over Rutgers here. But this is a bit of a situational spot. Oregon, really rough loss to Indiana last week. They now have to travel across the country here from West Coast to the East here to take on Rutgers, a team that, you know, they've been pretty solid. They're also, they did get blown up by Washington last week. Rutgers did have a very strong start, and then the second half they blew it versus Washington. But this team has shown glimpses of being a competent team. They have covered the spread of plus 19.5 in every game this year. Even when they've lost, they haven't lost by more than that. So Oregon's obviously the toughest team they played this year, and Oregon has covered this spread of 19.5 in every game except for the Penn State and Indiana games. Emotional loss, travel cross country against a Rutgers team that showed they do have a little bit of fight. They played Friday, so technically an extra day of rest for Rutgers coming home here. I think Rutgers plus 19.5. Oregon will win this game, no doubt about that. This Rutgers defense is horrific, but their offense, really good passing. They got a Greek guy quarterback, no coincidence. Greek guy quarterback. The offense looks pretty good at times. Not a coincidence. 309 passing yards per game. Oregon, obviously, a very strong pass defense. But my thing in this game is you could see in garbage time, or maybe even in the first half, again, like they did last week, Rutgers come out strong, score some points, and that could be the difference in this spot. Or even in garbage time, Oregon takes a big lead. Rutgers keeps throwing the football, and they add some points here. Again, Oregon's going to win. Make no doubt about that. This is not a Penn State situation, but I do think that Rutgers can keep this game relatively close. So I like Rutgers here, plus 19.5. All right, guys, next up, we got a pretty ugly Big Ten matchup here. We have Penn State going on the road to take on Iowa here, 7 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. And I am rocking with Iowa here, minus 2.5, simply because what is going right for Penn State here? Talk about a horrible stretch. You go back a month ago and you tell anybody, Penn State fan or not, what the next month would hold for this program, and they would have said, nah, you're a hater. What's happened over the last 3 to 4 weeks has been unbelievable how a season unraveled so quickly. They were 3-0, ranked in the top 10 going into that Oregon game, and they did give Oregon a fight. They lost by 6. So, I mean, yeah, typical James Franklin loss there, but at least they had a battle. But what's happened each of the last 2 weeks, no one could have seen coming, losing back-to-back ranked games against a winless, at the time, winless UCLA team, and against a Northwestern team that I picked last week from a spread perspective, never thinking they would win that game. And all hell's broken loose. James Franklin fired, Drew Allard out for the season with an injury. Nothing is going right for this Penn State squad. Now, after firing Franklin, after losing Allard, after losing 3 straight, guess where you get to go? On the road at Iowa against one of the most frustrating teams to play in college football because their defense is just so damn good. They can slow down any team. Their weakness is their passing defense, kind of. If 22nd in the nation and passing allowed is a weakness, Penn State now going to have a backup quarterback in with a new coach. It's a disaster here. Maybe they rally around the interim coach, but I think Iowa here with, if Drew Allard was playing, maybe. But no Allard, no James Franklin, new coach. You got to go immediately on the road with a new coach and new quarterback against an Iowa defense that is crushing. It's not very good. And also, Penn State defensively has been weak against the run this year, 71st, giving up 144 yards per game. That's the only lifeline Iowa has offensively is they have a halfway decent rushing offense. I don't see a lot of good things going for Penn State in this spot. Give me Iowa minus 2.5 at home. This Penn State team, I think, is going to keep continuing to spiral out of control here. And it stinks for the Penn State fans. This was supposed to be the year they had national championship aspirations and everything. And it all went to hell very quickly. But, yeah, really rough. Having to go on the road and play Iowa after firing your coach and losing your quarterback, not exactly the place you want to be. So give me Iowa here. Minus 2.5. The under also is not a bad play in this spot. All right, guys, next up, SEC battle, Texas at Kentucky, 7 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Kentucky Wildcats here, plus 13.5 as the home dog. Grabbing that from minus 115 over on Nova. And I'm sorry, I know Texas is coming off a massive win over Oklahoma, and some people might say I'm a bit butthurt because I had Oklahoma. I was really high on them in that game, and they obviously fell short in the Red River rivalry. But I cannot just wipe away all the things I've seen from Texas all year because of one game. Granted, it's a step in the right direction for the Longhorns, and maybe that is the springboard they needed to kind of get things going. But I cannot forget the Florida loss. I can't forget the Ohio State loss. Arch Manning hadn't looked great. And then Oklahoma, they played well, but I'm not forgetting all that stuff. I think Texas will win this game, but emotional win, big win, season-saving win, what some would say for Texas. Now having to go to Lexington and play a Kentucky team that's fresh off a bye week, having some time to kind of rest. Now they've had back-to-back really rough road losses here against Georgia and South Carolina the last few weeks. But the one thing you can say for Kentucky is their battle test. They played Ole Miss, they played South Carolina, they played Georgia. Some tough games on their schedule. Coming off the bye week now, they made a quarterback change mid-season, which obviously is tough. They're in a better position coming into this game here. And although I really like Texas, and defensively, obviously Texas is a nightmare to play, as Oklahoma can tell you. Top 3 scoring defense, really good run defense, solid pass defense. I don't see Kentucky scoring many points. Where I get concerned here is how well is Texas offense going to do against a Kentucky defense, A Kentucky defense that is not great, but we haven't seen Texas offense be great. Again, I'm not saying Texas is going to go ahead and win and lose the game. They will win the game. Texas will win this game. But 13.5 points is a lot of points. And I know Texas is beating up on some weaker competition, but Kentucky has held their own in some of these spots. And they got blown up by Georgia, blown up by South Carolina. But they did play well against Ole Miss, and Texas Longhorns, the insight provided by Outlier, are 2-6 against the spread in the last 8 games. So we will see on the road here, and I do want to look at what the road schedules look like for Texas over the last 10 games on the road. And you see there, okay, that's Kentucky. Whoops, for Texas. Road game has not been their strength the last year and a half, okay? The only game on the road, getting back to 2024 last year, the start of last year, where they covered 13.5 on the road, was that Michigan game back on September 7th of last year. Vanderbilt, they won, but didn't cover 13.5. Arkansas, they won, didn't cover 13.5. So you kind of see the trend there. They haven't been great on the road dating back to last year in terms of these big point spreads. Michigan being the only one early last year. So 13.5 points, a lot of points coming off an emotional win last week. Kentucky's not a good team, and they should lose by a healthy amount of points here. But considering the situational spot here, I think Kentucky is a right play. All right, guys, only a few picks left in today's video. These next 2 picks, we're going to fly through them because they're both Clash of the Titans picks. We have Tennessee at Alabama, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. And I am going with the Volunteers here, plus 10.5. Again, further explanation in the individual Clash of the Titans video coming out in the next 24 hours. But Tennessee plus 10.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 137 over on DraftKings. Just a lot of points. Now, the actual spread itself is 8.5, so I'm adding a couple points here. But Alabama just had a really good run lately, and they've been winning these games. But talk about a brutal schedule. At Georgia, come home Vanderbilt, at Missouri, come home Bama. Now, granted, it's all SEC travel, so it's not like they're traveling cross-country for these games. But it's been rough game after rough game, road, home, rough game after rough game. And now you got Tennessee coming into town here. 10.5 points a lot. I think Alabama probably should win this game, but 10.5 points is a lot of points. So far this year, Tennessee has covered plus 10.5 in every game this season. Even when they lost to Georgia, it was a 3-point loss at home. Bama minus 10.5. It's been a little bit more of a mixed bag here. They did cover versus Vanderbilt, but again, a late touchdown kind of got them that. But FSU, Georgia, Missouri, all these other ranked games, these tougher games, although Florida State not really looking as good anymore, you do see they haven't really covered by these big point spreads. So Tennessee's very good. I do think that Alabama's run defense here is going to be tested. Obviously not a very good run defense. Tennessee, a very good rushing offense. On the flip side, though, Alabama's passing offense against Tennessee's passing defense. Huge advantage there for Bama. So I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. The over's not a bad play here either. But again, more breakdown coming in the Clash of the Titans video. And then another Clash of the Titans pick here. We have USC at Notre Dame, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Classic college football rivalry game. Notre Dame team total over 34.5 points. Minus 135 over on DraftKings again. More breakdown coming in that separate Clash of the Titans video, which will be coming out soon on the channel. But that is the pick I'll share with you guys in this video. And by the way, they cashed in 4 of 6 games this year, and they did cash it last year versus USC. So some good numbers to support it. All right, guys, 3 picks left in today's video. Next up, another SEC showdown here, Missouri at Auburn, 7:45 p.m. kickoff. We're going with Auburn here on the spread, plus 2.5. Grabbing this for minus 120 over on FanDuel. And I actually like Auburn money line, honestly, at home, being a home dog. I don't mind it. This Auburn team is battle tested to the maximum. Baylor, okay, that was their first game of the year. Pretty tough team. Not a ranked team, but a tough team. But each of the last 3 weeks, they played Oklahoma, A&M, and Georgia, 3 straight games. And you know what? They've put up at least a decent fight in all those games. They've lost all those games. They lost all 3, but they lost by 7 to Oklahoma at Oklahoma. They lost by 6 to A&M at College Station at A&M. And then they lost by 10 to Georgia at home coming off the bye week. That was their worst loss, but they really have looked very strong. Even in these losses, they've gone toe-to-toe with some of the best competition in college football, and have held their own. Situational spot, Missouri, coming off, obviously, they played well versus Bama, but they lost, obviously. This is their first road game of the year. So they lose to Bama last week, which was honestly their first true test of the season. And following that close Bama loss, they now have to go on the road, first road game, to take on Auburn. Not exactly the spot you want to be for Missouri. Auburn, obviously, very well battle-tested by this point. They played tough game after tough game after tough game. This is their 4th straight game against a ranked SEC team. They're at home here. And Missouri, honestly, of all the SEC teams they played, Missouri is definitely the weakest of the 4. I think Auburn should win this game outright, honestly, but plus 2.5. We'll take the points and play it a little safer. But, you know, Missouri, they did look good. They held their own versus Alabama, for sure. And this Missouri defense looks to be pretty solid. But I have question marks here. The one big strength for Missouri's offense has been their rushing offense. Auburn's run defense is pretty good. This is not Alabama, where their run defense is a problem. Auburn has a very strong run defense. So it will be interesting to see how this game rolls out. It really comes down to what Auburn and Jackson Arnold can do here. But I think Auburn could win the game outright, should win the game outright, but plus 2.5. Playing it a little safer there. All right, guys, second to last pick, another clash of the Titans pick. We have Utah at BYU, 8 p.m. kickoff. And again, I'm going to break this game for the last time, the 5th and final time. I'm going to break this game down further in that separate video, but BYU plus 3.5, which I'm grabbing from minus 112 over on Novig. Again, tune in for that further breakdown, but I'll give the pick here, BYU plus 3.5. If you want to hear my reasoning why, you're going to have to just wait and find out. And last but not least, guys, our 22nd and final pick in today's video. We got Florida State at Stanford, 10:30 p.m. kickoff. I'm just hoping for a Florida State bounce back here to give them some credit. They have had a bit of a rough schedule. Now, Virginia and Pitt are not great teams, but they are strong ACC squads. And Florida State's been in every one of these games. They lost by 8 in double overtime to Virginia. They lost by 6 to the second-ranked team in the country in Miami. And they lost by 3 at home to Pitt. Again, losses are losses. They are what they are. But I do still think this Florida State team is solid. And ultimately, they're playing a Stanford squad here that is really, really bad. Their only win of the season coming against San Jose State by 1 point. They've lost every other game this year. They lost by 28 to Virginia. They lost by 24 last week to SMU. Just not a very good team. This is a good bounce-back spot for Florida State. Good get-right spot for the Seminoles, who have had a really rough 3-game stretch. I'm expecting a nice bounce-back spot here. 17.5 points for minus 108 over on Novig. They should roll through the Stanford team, who offensively, not great, and then defensively are a bit of a mess. Although they have a pretty good run defense, Florida State should be able to throw with Thomas Castellanos all over this Stanford defense. So I like the big bounce-back spot here for Florida State in this one. All right, guys, 22 picks in the book. That is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Again, one Clash of the Titans video is already out on the channel. The next 4, there's going to be a couple probably coming out later tonight. Most of them will be coming out early tomorrow morning. So make sure to tune in for those videos. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your week. Best college football slate of the year by far. Make sure to tune in, watch, and enjoy. Until next time, guys, hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money.